Hello. Today we have our special guest, Heather Noel, the creator of The Giving Game. Hello, Heather.
Hello.
And also on the call is Miss Mechanism.
Yeah. So happy to be here.
Heather, we are so happy to have a conversation with you. And Mecca and I we're just wrapping up. Actually, we extended the 60 days, and so we'll ask you a little bit about the Giving Game. So we're already in a group, doing group work with the Giving Game with you.
Nice.
And just to introduce just a little bit, I did the Giving Game, which is a free online e-course created by Heather Noel. I did that 2 years ago, and I'm doing it for a second time in group. And I just finished a mentorship with you, which was amazing.
Thank you.
And so we have a few questions. Mecca and I have a couple of questions for you, Heather. This is special because I feel you are like one of my great teachers.
Oh, thank you.
And so the first question I have for you, Heather, is how did this idea of the Giving Game come to you?
Oh, that is such a good question. Well, before I go there, let me just tell everybody listening that if you're interested in the free e-course, it's at givinggamefoundation.com.
Mm-hmm.
givinggamefoundation.com. Okay, there we go. Well, let's see.
Well, maybe even first, before you even start.
I have to go further back, and then I have to come forward, okay?
Like a brief understanding, because I know but a brief understanding of what the Giving Game is.
Okay. Well, before I go there, let me just tell you that what is at the foundation of the Giving Game is something called How to Feel Better When Things Get Worse.
Okay.
And you can just people can just go to YouTube and put that in with the name Heather Noel, and the whole thing will come up. But basically, that's the foundation of this, and that's why I want to go back there just very quickly.
Okay.
So years ago, I knew metaphysics. I was raised in Christian Science, so I totally understood metaphysics. And yet my life wasn't working, and I didn't know why. And actually, what happened was one day I was like, okay, I was having this talk with God. I'm like, okay, God, listen. If I know I could use therapy, but I can't afford it, so if you tell me what to do, I'll do it. And I guess I must have been so strong in that belief of what I wanted that I got something delivered. And what happened was 2 days later, I walked into the store and I heard this. I got this tape series. It was 3 hours long, and this man says, okay, do this. And it was a great series. And he goes, now do this for the next 60 days. And I was like, I won't remember this for 60 days. Are you kidding? So I went through the whole series, and I copied and pasted. And this was so long ago. It was back in the tape-to-tape deck time, with cassette tapes. And I recorded everything that I wanted to hear on a daily basis. And the tape was 90 minutes long. I listened every single day. I applied everything. I just kept doing it, working on it. And my whole life transformed in 60 days. And I'm like, wow. So I handed it off to a few friends, make little copies, and they tried it. Same thing happened. And it was like miraculous stuff. And I'm like, that's so weird. I don't know why this is happening. But some people couldn't listen because they were, the guy had this really, he sounded like a Baptist preacher. Anybody with issues around that couldn't listen. And then anyhow, so I just thought, well, I'll make up my own thing. And I'll just put stuff that I know is helpful. So I created that. And then I gave away all these downloads. Like I think 30,000 downloads went out. And it was having this effect on people that was mind-blowing. I just, like nobody ever said it doesn't work. And you two know that, right? I mean, right. There's no way that you can apply these simple tools without it working. And then about 5 years later, I discovered what I had done. I had no idea. And there was a movie that came out called What the Bleep, and in it, it talked about these neural patterns in the brain. And so what happens when you do this 60 days, and especially if you keep listening to something over and over every day, it creates a brand new neural pathway in the brain. And the old dominant pathway shrinks down, right? Okay, so now we've got this going, and I know it works, and I'm like, okay, but I didn't know how to get it out into the world, and eventually I realized that what I was being asked to do was to put it out for free. And, that's just not the way that the brain normally thinks. We're kind of like, oh, I got to make a living and I got to do this. So I took on this new way of looking at things. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to outgive God. And for anybody who has trouble with God, I want to say there's a lot of ways to look at this. Like the way I was raised was God is love, God is truth, God is life. So I didn't have any issues with that word. So for anybody else who has issues with that word, just pick whatever you like, Even I am is a way to look at God, So, but anyhow, so that brings us up to the giving game. So now this is how this started. I had a friend from Hawaii get in touch with me, and she was telling me about this spiritual women's group, and basically I didn't fully understand it at the time, but it was basically kind of a spiritual pyramid scheme. And the women who were in it actually ended up going to jail later on, or prison. But at the time, I was like, oh, this sounds great. She says, yeah, I have this woman who will pay for you to get into the group, which was like $5,000. And then when you make the $40,000 at the end, you give her back $20,000. And I'm like, okay, that sounds really good. So I jump in, and then I quickly realized that these women who were supposed to be so spiritual had no idea. I mean, it was rah, 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 blah, blah. And so I thought, well, I'll put up something to help them. So I started creating this little mini program to help them understand how to think differently, et cetera. And then about 2 weeks into it, I understood what was happening, and I realized I had so many people that love me and believe in what I'm talking about that I would have no problem getting people to fill in this pyramid, right? Mm-hmm. But I realized that they wouldn't have my kind of, they would then be sitting stuck with it. Like there was a really good chance they wouldn't be able to move on. So I thought, well, I'll make a giving game where people can support each other through doing this, right? And so I started to really tune into how could I do this? How could people be supported financially? But it was really complicated to figure that out, and I think that's because it really wasn't meant to be. So one thing I've learned is if something's really hard, don't try to do it. Like if it's really, I don't mean, like there are things that challenge me, but there are other things that you just run into wall after wall after wall. And so then I thought, well, why don't I just give it away completely, just the way it is, and then let people mentor and learn how to do it themselves, and they can mentor others, and they can figure it out. You don't have to have a specific amount of money. They can do whatever they want to do. And I'm like, oh, that's so much easier. So I know you didn't expect that, did you? But that's the long story of how this came into my mind. And I'm so glad it happened the way it did, because I don't think I would have even thought like this. I wouldn't have thought of putting this together and making a 60-day program if I hadn't been kind of in that old paradigm of got to make money. How do you make money? How do I help other people make money? And instead, I threw it all out the window and went, well, I'm just giving it away. That's so much easier. And it was like, yeah, that's the way to do it.
Wow.
Okay, there you go.
And that was seriously one of my questions, because that's incredible. What an amazing story.
Yeah. Your question, Meka, was I think that you're asking, why did you give it away for free? Like, what led you to wanting to give it away for free, right?
Yeah.
What was that process?
Well, that
like,
was
what does that look like and feel like?
Yeah, that was the course of least resistance. Was just just give it away, and I'm like, oh, see, this is the thing about me. I have no trouble with taking action on my intuition. So if I get this feeling and it gets really clear, I go, okay, done. I don't go, well, but I got to make money and I have to da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, nope, I'm going to try to outgive God again. It's really
That's
the way
funny.
to go. Yeah.
That's my other question was, like, I mean, I have several questions, but another question was, how are you able to trust your, inspired action, your intuition, without, like, talking yourself out of things? Like, it takes a lot of work to, like, trust, but you're saying it. You're already talking about that. How beautiful.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's
that inspiration.
exactly what it is. But you do have to learn to trust yourself. But once you do, there will be no question in your mind. You will have no question. But notice that there were a lot of things that happened that prepared me to trust myself, right? In other words, it was so complex to try to figure out how to do this, how to make it legal, and how to set people up, and then I'm always kind of like, what is the least amount of energy I can put into this, right? I don't want this, sucking the life out of me. So, and by the way, just to show you that I had practice with this, years ago I wrote a book called Children of Light, and I actually had Deepak Chopra's endorsement, and it was, oh my gosh, like I look back on it now, and it had this it was self-published. It was like a small miracle that he even did that endorsement. But a friend of his was working for him, wrote the foreword, and he loved it. And so Deepak never even heard it. It was just kind of like a, okay, right, I'll just do that for you kind of thing. But so I published this, and I thought, this is going to be my big break into the world. I've got this book and all that kind of stuff. Well, I ended up having a baby, and the book came out, and then I was pregnant. I'm like, oh, okay, new plan, and I was going to go, and I was going to sell this out of the trunk of my car kind of thing, and I was sick as a dog, right? And I was like, okay, now what? And 6 years earlier, this is totally off topic, but 6 years earlier, I had literally woken up at 3 a.m, and I heard a man's voice talking in my head. And this man said to me, you're going to have a baby. It's going to be a girl. She'll be blonde and blue-eyed, and you're to name her Amelia. And when that happens, you're to go swim with dolphins. Now, this was the very first time I'd have any kind of a psychic experience like that, and I didn't consider myself psychic, nothing. And so I was like, whoa, dude. But I thought, well, that's really fun and interesting. Not having a baby, but that's a cool thing. So when she comes along, by the way, and then every time I'd go to some kind of an event with psychic people, they'd go, there's this little girl. I go, yeah, not having her. But they go, no, you're supposed, okay. And then she started coming into my dreams. Okay, so here she's coming, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not going to be selling this book out of the trunk of my car. So I got to go swim with dolphins, and I'm like, and it's kind of crazy, but. Believe it or not, it's illegal for a pregnant woman to swim with dolphins in the United States or the Bahamas. Illegal. In captivity, right? So I sell my car, and I fly down to Mexico, and literally I went to one island, wrong place, went to another place. This is my last opportunity. And like in my mind, I was like, I know I'm supposed to swim with dolphins. And if it's not here, it's going to be somewhere. But it's going to, and I have nothing. I'm like camping on the beach. I go into this place called Xcaret, which is on the Caribbean side, and they have an eco park, right, with dolphins. And I go up to this guy. I show him my book, and I said, I'm a published author, and I really want to write about the dolphin-fetus connection. And in 5 minutes, he gave me a pass to the park to get in free every day before the park opened. He gave me my own dolphin to swim with every day by myself.
Wow.
And it was amazing. And that has never happened before or since. And so it's like I let go of everything. Okay, so then fast forward, have the baby, come back. I'm in Utah. I've got all these freaking books. And I'm like, okay, God, you and I both know I don't know how to promote myself. I don't know anything about these books. This is bad feng shui. I've got 5,000 books in my garage. Well, actually, I had 7,000 because I wrote a second book. But anyhow, so I had 7,000 books in my garage. And I'm like, this is such bad feng shui. I can't move. I can't think straight. What do? And immediately the words come in, give them away. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. I mean, that's how it was, just like that. So I thought, how do I give away thousands of books? I'm in Salt Lake, Utah. This isn't like, the Mecca of, New Age spirituality stuff. And the next day I get a message from, what's it called? From the same guy. What was his name? John Randolph Price. So I was on his mailing list. And I clicked to reply, and I accidentally clicked on reply all. And this whole list of names came up because they hadn't done a blind carbon copy. And I thought, whoa, that's weird. I X out of it, don't think about it again. The next day I go into my email, the entire list is sitting in my email list. Like, that never happens. Unless you actually send a reply out, that doesn't happen, right? And this was a long, long time ago, back at, when the Internet was still very new. And so, anyhow, all of a sudden I had thousands of people. I sat down, I wrote to every person personally. And I copied and pasted this, and I said, you can have a free box of books, and all you have to do is pay for shipping. All the books were gone in a week.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I'm really good at this. And I felt so much better, like by not hanging on and not doing it the way, not like, this is my thing and I have to hold on. I just let it all go. And so, okay. So there you go. There's another long answer. This is what happens when you talk to a Gemini.
And so I want to expand on Meka's question because she phrased it in such a way of a lot of people are not in tune with that, and as far as listening to that voice of inspired action,
right.
So what would be something like really quick that you could say to someone that's going to be new listening to, because most of our listening base are people who are following Meka.
Right.
So what would you say to them?
Is your listening base like? Do you feel like these people are going to be intuitive or not intuitive?
Yeah, a little bit of both. This is the first exposure I think some of my my tribe has had to a super spiritual way of thinking. So that's why, we're trying to cultivate this opportunity. I mean, I'm, definitely put scenes of shamanism, manifestation, empowerment into the music over the years. But I think being really direct about it, this is with Ascended Heart Navigators is the first opportunity. And we're directing so many people to you, Heather Noel, that it would be such a great way to, this is some people's first exposure to really clear, direct guidance on how to trust themselves and listen to intuition and cultivate that aspect of their life. So, how do you trust yourself, and follow your intuition?
It's really funny. You don't even have to understand what I'm going to say because everyone will relate to this. Look at any time that you have a feeling to go left instead of right or do this instead of that, and you push past it and you do the thing that you wanted, that you thought you were going to do, or you traveled on the same route that you always travel even though you were directed to go someplace else, and then something happens and you immediately go, oh, I knew better, right? I knew that, but I didn't act on it, correct? Everybody knows that. I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's all it is. It's not a big deal. It's just as simple as that. So for me, it just began by me trusting that feeling. And and the thing is, when you trust the feeling and you turn left instead of right, let's say, and nothing happens, well, that's perfect. You might think, oh, I don't know why I needed to go that way. I just did it. But if you'd gone the other way, you might have very well found out why you were told to go left instead of right. Right? And all that had to happen for me was a very few times, and then I just started going with that feeling. So it doesn't come as like words in your head. It'll come more as a feeling, right? And you have the feeling to do something. And what happens is if you don't listen to yourself, then think of it this way. It's like this really nice little voice is telling you something in your head, but your left brain is going, oh, that's just silly. I don't need to do that. But if you start to listen to that voice, then you're going to start listening more and more and more. And that's all it is, just that feeling that, that you're supposed to do something differently, and you just kind of go with it, and it'll feel calm. That's the other thing to look for. Like, a lot of people get really, riled up about stuff, and the more you can practice, and that's what's great about the giving game, you'll learn this practice where the chatter in your head gets turned off because you just won't go there anymore, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing that stops you from being in your intuition, right?
Right.
And so, but everybody's got it. There's nobody who doesn't have it. The only reason it's developed within me is because I take action. I've learned to listen and respond. And then the more that I do that, the bigger the events tend to be. Not like I have a lot of big events all the time, but I have to throw this in. This happened to me years ago. I was driving from Washington down to Oregon, and I was going to visit a friend, and I was on a 8-lane highway, and usually I am in the left lane passing people, and I find myself in the right lane, and there's a man walking with a pack on his shoulder. Now, I've just come down from Canada. I'm by myself. My car is packed, and this guy's hitchhiking, and there's a cement wall up the side, right? And I get this, pick him up. I'm like, no, pick him up. No, pick him up. Pick him up. I'm like, fine. And I pull over, and it's so far down the road that's how strong this impulse was. It was like someone yelling at me. And I pull over, and I literally had to start backing up. And this is a Sunday at 5 o'clock, so super busy traffic. I'm slowly backing up, and that's how far ahead of him I was that he didn't even realize I was pulling over to pick him up. He gets in the car, and he had no front teeth, 24 years old, no front teeth, top or bottom. And I'm like, oh, and he smelled terrible. That was my biggest fear. I wasn't afraid for my life. I just thought, this guy's going to smell really bad. It was middle of summer, and he did. About 30 minutes go by. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and he becomes incoherent. And he literally cannot hold a sentence. And I'm like, I was so scared. Oh, my God. I'm like, he's on drugs. He's going to kill me. And I see this sign that comes up that says, rest area. And I was so scared in that moment that I was afraid if I pulled in, he might hurt me. You know what I mean? And I'm like, should I? And so in my mind, I thought, should I do this? And I'm not kidding you. It was like someone punched me in the solar plexus, like, boom. And I was like, oh, and I pull in. I get out of the car. I have to walk around and let him out of the car because he can't even open the door. He walks behind the car, and he collapses in an epileptic seizure. And there's a doctor and a nurse who were both in the parking lot in separate cars at the same time. And they knew what to do, thank God, because it freaked me out. I'd never seen an epileptic seizure. I'm like, and it's sort of like, it's sort of like the universe knows what you can handle and what you can't. It's like, and they're like, she can handle getting him to the parking lot, but she can't handle the rest of this, Right. And so, but this is the funniest thing. So these people are like surrounding me, and who is he? And I said, well, I picked him up hitchhiking, and they're like, oh my God, don't you know how you just can't do that. And this was right after that show called what was it, the angel thing, Touched by an Angel, right? And I said, well, I'm psychic. I was told to pick him up, and everyone in the group went, oh. That was great. But then afterwards, the doctor left, the nurses left, the guy's behind my car, so I can't leave. And then the ambulance people come, and they got him on a stretcher, and he's over by, but he's not conscious yet. And the man asked me, like, where did I find him? I gave him and I thought he was going to reprimand me. And instead he said, you saved this man's life. Because he would have run into that seizure on the highway, and it was so fast, and there was no place to go. I mean, literally, there was 5 feet on the side of the road, and so anyhow, the thing is, this is what happens when you develop that. Like, it started with me just going left instead of right. Mm-hmm. And then I came more and more, and I would just find myself, like, it isn't like things talking, like you might think like, oh, I don't have people talking in my head. That's not what it is. It's such a strong, compelling feeling the more that you do it, right? So you have to practice, right? You just have to practice. And there was for those who are intuitive, I want to throw in one little thing that really was helpful, and that was this woman her name is Carolyn Mace. She was teaching a class. She's an incredible medical intuitive, and she was teaching a class of all these people that wanted to be medical intuitives. And she started off by saying, she says, I want you to know that every person in here is so intuitive, it's painful. And the reason it's painful is because you do not act on your intuition. Okay? Wow. That is something to consider. So anybody can do that. You just start off wherever you're at.
Nice. I love that.
Beautiful.
I love that.
Beautiful.
And so Heather, you touched on something, but I want you to go into a little bit, because when you introduced, you touched on a little bit, and I wanted to ask, when we're talking about the giving game itself, what would you say is the heart or the essence of and the Giving Game is a 60-day free online course, like you said, thegivinggamefoundation.com. What would you say is like the heart or the essence of the Giving Game?
Well, that would be how to feel better when things get worse. So that is about 60, 70 minutes, and basically that is the foundation, and that is the thing that you want to listen to some part of that every single day, because what it does is it brings your thought back. And so I used to do psychic readings for people, and this is kind of what inspired me as well, because I didn't just sit there and lay stuff out. I would tell people how to fix the problem, like look, this is what's going on. And I would just repeat myself over and over, which is the other reason I made this CD in the first place of how to feel better when things get worse, because I was just constantly repeating myself. And so the thing is, these basic things that are in there will make so much sense. And the trick is listen to something every day. The toning, there's a thing called the toning meditation, which is really beautiful. And if you sing with it, your whole body vibrates, and you'll actually feel it. Like a lot of people who've never been able to meditate actually have that experience of meditation where you actually feel differently in your body from the process. So so it's a great thing for any of your listeners, and anybody who's into music is gonna, I would think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
If you don't want to sing, definitely hum. Okay, it's just a vibration. I've had people go, but you're a better singer. I'm like, forget that. It's just that you want your body to vibrate. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that just the act of expression, I really, really appreciate the toning meditation, because you are encouraging people to release, and like sing with it, hum with it, get the vibration in their body with it. And I'm really trying to figure out what that looks like, because I feel so many people don't have a form of artistic expression. And I think, that I'm discovering how the arts and expression are either a connection, like the greatest connection to the divine, and one of the greatest healing tools. So you're a writer, you're a theater performer, poet, and singer. Do you feel that expressive art aspect of your life helped you to connect to the divine and your spiritual development?
I don't know that it helps me. It just depends, It's like sometimes just singing, you just connect anyhow. Like I find that singing is so connective, no matter what. But it's not like I sing to connect. You can, but yeah. But in terms of, okay, here's my experience. I don't have any disconnect anymore. I'm always connected. So whatever I'm doing, I'm connected, right? So it isn't like I do this to connect. I'm always connected. And that is what happens when you're just listening to yourself. And I'll take it a step further. One of the fastest ways that you can see your life transform is to get really into being appreciative and grateful and generous. Generosity is huge. And it's like with my daughter now, there was a time when my husband, he passed on from cancer, and we lost everything. We used to live on the golf course, and everything was like gone, right? And so we started doing this thing where we'd have $10 between the two of us, right? And that it was basically me because I was taking care of her. So I had $10, and so we would go to a restaurant. Like there was this little Mexican place near us that had the best refried beans. We get an order of refried beans for $5, and we'd leave a $5 tip. And every time we did that, we would get a ton of money the next day. I mean, seriously, money would just like fly in, because when you start to disconnect from the idea that you have to be a hard worker and that money is limited and there's not enough, and this is like one of the fastest ways to snap yourself out of it, but you can't do it and be fearful. We did it, and we had fun with it, and we were just like, whatever's going to happen, we'll just see what happens, and so we didn't have any energy around it. So your energy in whatever I talk about has everything to do with your experience. So if you go into this, yeah, I don't believe in this stuff never works, well, then you're going to experience that, because that's what you say is so. And okay, so this is off topic, but you know how I love to say that we're playing a game. And if you look at it in a game-like way, the game is going to mirror back to you whatever you say is so. So you get to always be right. And that's a fabulous thing. It's the good news and the bad news. Yep, you're right. Yep, you're right. So whatever you're experiencing in your life right now, your experience is mirroring back to you that whatever you've been thinking and feeling, you are right. And that's when we bring in the thought, do you want to be right or happy?
Yes.
And I love this with little kids. When my daughter was 5, I asked her that. I'm like, honey, do you want to be right or happy? She goes, I want to be happy, Mom. And then when she was 6, I'm like, honey, do you want to be right or happy? She's like, well, let me think about that. Little kids, they've got it in the beginning. So if you've got little kids, listen to your kids, man. They know, and they won't let you get away with much either.
Nice. Totally. Very cool.
And that's a big one. And one of the conversations that I've had with people, it's the response, and that's a conversation or a talk that Meka and I are going to be doing either today or tomorrow, is like when bad things happen. And it's kind of like, it's like this. It was like, yeah, but you don't know, it's like when I talk to people about making a choice and how they perceive things, and it's almost as like the response is, but this and this happened to me, and you don't know like what this feels like, and I was, I was raped or mugged or beaten or whatever, and then then it takes a very different turn, and like, how can you say, just be happy, or this is all your perspective, and that's often like the response I get when I start having those kind of conversations with people.
Yeah, right. Well, first of all, I think you have to kind of pull back a little bit and just observe your life and notice that some of the, quote, worst things that have ever happened to you have had the best results. It's like, in other words, you're like, what brought me to that moment of going, you show me what to do and I'll do it, was that I was a single mom and I was working 7 days a week. I had my baby, I was with her 7 days a week, full time, nobody to help me. Then I had all my clients on one day, and 1 day a week she would go and be with her dad. And after a year, I hadn't even been to a movie. I hadn't done anything but just be full-time mom, by myself. And believe me, unless you've had that experience, that's a lot of work. It really is. And I was just so worn out that I was like wide open, I was like, just show me. But I've had other things happen. I've had other things that were, traumatic that had happened to me. But the thing is, if you keep focusing on it, I guarantee you will get more of that experience.
Correct.
And so you have to just say to yourself, do I want to do it differently? Am I open to having a different experience. If a person highly identifies with their, and I call it a victim story, because it's like if you understand, so when you just explain, if you're talking about something and just telling the truth, this is what happened. So people think that I'm like some really airy-fairy person. I'm not. I'm super practical. And it's like I will look at things directly and I'll say, okay, this is what it is, and, you know, that kind of thing. But I do not focus on something that I don't want to continue feeling. So pay attention to this. So you look at someone who's been raped, right? Okay, so or whatever. There's some kind of a trauma, and here's the thing: it isn't the trauma. It's how are you feeling about that trauma? Oh, well, I feel angry and I'm hostile, and this should whatever that, and get yourself down to what are your emotions. And a lot of people even have trouble getting down to what the emotions are. They'll talk about stuff, right? But when you get down to it, and you'll find that these emotions are what are coming up to be healed, right? So you have buried emotions. That is the trick, and that's what the giving game will walk you right through, is how to work through these buried emotions. And there's meditations in there for sadness and anger and you name it. It's all in there. And truly, I don't know anybody. Seriously, I've had this up there for a few years now. I've had How to Feel Better When Things Get Worse for quite a while. It's been like at least 20 years. And so it's like if you really, so it just takes willingness. That's the truth. And I've worked with all kinds of people. Nobody has ever gone through the giving game who has been willing to change that has not seen this incredible change take place.
Right.
And I think, and this is one happy thing for your group, the people that actually have the hardest time with getting through the giving game and having the results are the ones who are on the spiritual teachers. They're the worst. They're like, yeah, I know that. I'm like, shut up. You don't know that, or you wouldn't be talking to me, you know? Like, you don't know this. You imagine something, but you don't know it, because if you know it, you wouldn't be talking to me. And so that's a beautiful thing, that you have a group of people who are fresh and their minds are open. I would work with that person any day before someone's like, yes, I'm an expert in spirituality, and I have this whole background. And I'm like, no, go find somebody else to talk to. This is going to be boring. I'm not doing it. You know?
And I would also have to agree, Heather, that I had been working on myself for about 10
Meka.
years. Hey, Meka had dropped off the call. She's back again. So I had been working on myself for 10 years, and then I did your course.
Takes a little humility, doesn't it?
The transformation, the personal transformation that occurred to me, and I think that's why I feel so called to continue working with your course and introducing your course to people, is because the amount of transformation that happened within myself, a person who had been actively working on themselves for like 10 years, the transformation that occurred in 60 days was mind-blowing. And I can't say enough about your program and the importance of doing the work and staying with the program, and how much a person can completely and totally change their programming. And that's one of the things that I'm going to ask you this question, and you may or may not know the answer to, but I almost feel doing your course for the second time, I almost feel like there's something else. There's something deeper in your course. It's almost like tapping into the secrets of the universe and how the mysteries of how the laws, the universal laws work. And I'm not even sure how to articulate but there's something.
No, I know what you're saying.
It's embedded in your course in a way that you're giving people like access codes to universal mysteries.
Yeah, especially if you go and listen to the game audiobook. It's now on YouTube. Now, it's in the course itself, but you can go directly to the audiobook through YouTube. So if you go Heather Noel and then put in the game audiobook, you'll find it. And that is so embedded with incredible stuff. And Meka, I don't know if I told you this, but I added music to it. Did I tell you that?
No, that's exciting.
It is so exciting. I found this incredible. There are people on YouTube who give away their music, and it's like I am so forever grateful because I found this one guy that was just incredible. And if you go to the game, you'll see his name and all the songs, but beautiful stuff. I mean, if you go back and listen to the game again, you will think he wrote the music for me. It is so perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible. Wow. And it literally, this is what I would say to your whole group. If you don't want to make an effort, go listen to the audiobook. It'll literally work with you. And there's a little 5-minute introduction that I did in a talk with a woman when I was living in Bali. And because all these people had these incredible breakthroughs when they listened to the audiobook. And it was like too many. And it was like, it was happening to everybody. And I'm like, what? And she basically told me that they were being hypnotized while listening to the story. And that all these really deep truths were going right into the subconscious, and the left brain wasn't arguing about it because the left brain goes, well, it's just a story. And so it like checks out, right? And nice. So, but when I found this music, and then I thought, well, why don't I just put the triad wave in there? That's a whole other thing, and you'll have to go into the giving. Or actually, if you go listen to the audiobook, it gives you a description of what the triad wave is, but it's a sine wave that actually clears blocks. And you can't hear it. It's a silent sine wave, but it clears blocks in your system so that as you listen to the story and you're just kind of enjoying it, and it doesn't even matter if you fall asleep. It still works with you. It's really something. So it is like getting to do, magic. I love it. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And the audiobook is also free, right, Heather? Where can people
it's free.
Where can people find your book?
Yeah, they can get the audiobook again. The book itself. Well, the book itself is on Amazon. And you can get a physical copy there, and then I think the Kindle copy is like $4. I was going to get it down to as close as I could to free, and then I kind of got distracted and forgot. But anyhow, it's not too much. So I highly recommend the audiobook over the reading book because. Yeah, it'll work with you as opposed to just reading it, which keeps you a little bit more on your left brain side. And the other thing is since this is a group that loves creativity, since we're talking about music and all that, this is really creative for your right brain. So as you're listening, your right brain is so creative because it's creating images and feelings and thoughts and all that in a way that you can't do if you're reading a book. And also when you whenever I used to have trouble going to sleep, I would put on an audiobook because I could close my eyes. I'd be so engaged with the story that I was really focused and not trying to fall asleep, and that would make me fall asleep. So even if you listen like that and you fall asleep, no worries, So.
Right. Yeah.
It's on
totally, actually.
It's on Google Play also, right? You can find it on Google Play.
It is. I don't know if I have. This is a brand new version. I don't know if the version with music is there yet, but it should be.
It's on YouTube.
So I would go to YouTube right now, but as soon as I have the new version, let me just give everybody another link. There's a website I have called navigatethegame.com.
Okay.
And as soon as I have this newer version up with the music, it'll have a version on Google Play and one for Apple as well. And there's also a game. There's an actual game that you can play that's an interactive audiobook game. It's the first one that's ever been created, and it's really fun. Unfortunately, that version doesn't have it with music. That would take not reprogramming, but I'd have to go back to the programmer and it's just a lot of work when you do everything for free. You're like, yeah, I don't think I'll do that. But anyhow,
totally.
But I think the music version is worth it. But there are people who love the game. I had a woman who wrote to me, and she's like, my mom has played this game 6 times. I'm like, oh my gosh, So, and it's
That's
really
awesome.
cool because as you make these different choices, there are all these binary choices. Do you want to go right or left kind of things? But then you create your own audiobook that you can replay. So it shows you what you picked, and then you can replay that. So you can make like tons of different versions of the audiobook, however you want to make them, and play them back for yourself. It's really fun. Okay, but anyhow, back to your question. In terms of the rest of the program, this is what happens when you listen to when you're working with the program, the 60-day program. It's like taking layers off an onion. So the first time you listen, you take off a few layers. The next time you come back and you listen again, you're at a different level. So you are a different person, and what you can see and understand is different. So then you go down a few more layers, and that's why people can actually go back and do these over and over again. I've actually had people listen to How to Feel Better When Things Get Worse, and this is back in the day when it was all CDs, and they would say, you know what, I would have sworn that was not on that CD. So,
right.
and that's really common. It's a very common thing. There will be things you literally cannot hear until you're ready. And so there are things that are kind of, they're sort of hidden in plain sight in this website. But there's some deep stuff, and so the more that you are connecting to yourself, the more that you've stopped the chatter in your mind, the more that things that you're reading or listening to are going to speak to you, and that's exactly what happens. So it can keep helping you indefinitely because it's always, you're always changing. So what you can hear is always going to change.
Right. I would agree with
Brilliant.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meka, do you have any other questions, Meka?
No, I do love the time. Like, there's so many different ways that you reach us, when experiencing the 60 days and, the interactive audiobook. But there's so many different ways that you reach out. I love the moments you share with your daughter, like when you're just like dancing to feel better. Like, this is really simple.
It's so cute, yeah.
So cute that you bring her energy into it, and like some of the stories relate to her. So we feel it's the way that you share is very authentic, and it does really invite us into your truth. And I think that's really why I feel that it's so easy to trust you on this journey and can feel connected to you and your journey, is because you do tell it in a really authentic, fun way. So thank you for your authenticity. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I love listening to you sing. I love listening to you speak. I love that you put your some of your poetry and your theater aspects and your singing in there as part of the storytelling, because I think that's really important as well.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was funny because I had a whole background in theater, and I went to acting school at the Guildhall in London, and but that wasn't where I was meant to go. And I think this is one thing that it really helps to understand, is that you're going to end up being where you need to be. And it's so funny how I didn't want to be in the theater world. Like, I loved acting, I loved performing, but there's like a whole political aspect to it, and all kinds of things that make it really difficult, which you probably know. And so I didn't find myself really drawn to be in that world, but it all came back now. like it's all come back through my ability, like everything, all the stuff, all the narrations I've done, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For anybody who goes to listen to the game, every single voice you hear in there is me. And so they're all different accents. There's everything. And it's like basically I couldn't afford to pay somebody to do it, so I better do it myself, you know. So that's kind of what I've noticed everything that has come back, all the training, everything has come full circle. So for anybody who's kind of like, when is this? You know, I failed. No, you didn't fail. You just let it be. There's a reason for everything, and I'm going to add one more thing for your people. Now, people may not believe me, but by the time if you did the giving game, you'll probably have a little bit more belief in what I have to say. But this is the thought that you have. Everything. If you hold this thought, this will start to play out just exactly like I'm saying. You say to yourself, everything that happens to me happens 100% to my benefit. It is always happening to my benefit. And I'm going to give you an example for some people that are like, hey, wait a minute, how can you say this about this traumatic thing that happened to me? And so I had an experience where I had to, okay, so I'll tell you how to find this out. It's really cool. We did this class years and years ago, and in the class you had a partner, and you and the partner had to tell each other your best victim story. So I had a really good one. I had like some sexual abuse when I was a little girl, and so I'm like, oh well, then your partner would have to jump up, physically stand up and say, yes, this person was a victim. So I know I've got it. I'm like, I got it. Nobody's going to say I'm not the victim. So we do this, and then then the next part of the exercise was that you had to now retell your story where you're no longer the victim.
Wow.
Okay, so I did.
Intense,
and right? And you got 2 minutes. Each time you had 2 minutes to convince. Now, no one says you have to tell the truth. You just have to make it up so that you are telling, so that you're not the victim. So then, and in the beginning, when you try to practice this, it's kind of like you'll be like, I don't know what I'm going to say. Just try it. Just jump in and try it. So now here I am. I have my partner, and I said, yeah, I had a sexual abuse thing happen with my dad. However, I ended up working. I was a massage therapist, and I ended up working with all these strippers, because I had one friend who was a stripper, or one client, and then all these other women I started working with, and then they found out that I also had psychic abilities. So like, forget the massages, give us psychic readings. So in the midst of all this, I'm working with all these women who have all been sexually abused, all of them.
Right.
And I came from such a different place because I had done my own healing work, and I was able to really help them. So in this 2-minute interaction, I just said, this was part of my plan, because I knew that this is what I was going to be working with, and these are women I was going to be working with. And you see what I'm saying? And so by the time I got done changing my story, where I wasn't the victim, it was part of my plan, it was so important, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the truth. Like, I knew it. I absolutely knew that I had just told myself the truth by coming up with a completely different story. Right?
Oh,
so for anybody who doesn't like that idea, then what I would say to you is that you are having you're identifying with being a victim, and that's fine, but you're going to be stuck there. You're going to be stuck, and you're going to have more victim opportunities. And trust me, all you have to do is know somebody who has been a victim their whole lives, and how much fun is it to talk to them. Would you want to have that be the mind that you're thinking with? Probably not, right? But you have to look at the point that if I say to someone, look, I've got my fairy wand, and when we get done with this conversation today, you are no longer going to be a victim. And they'll be like, well, then who am I? What am I going to talk about? Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you have to really, if you want to stop being a victim, you got to give it up. You got to stop telling that story to yourself, because it isn't what's here and now, and that's the truth. It is not in this moment unless you bring it in. And that's your choice. And you can do it the hard way. God knows I don't get in the way of people doing it the hard way. So.
Yeah, and you helped me through that, Heather. You asked me to turn my story around, and whoa, that was an interesting practice. And I love that. And that's part of your program, which your program is like full of magical goodies. And I really appreciate. So I have one last question. So you talked about your book, and we know about the e-course. Are there any things that are new and upcoming, or something that's something that you're working on that you would be excited to share?
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so I have I'll share this. This is a weird share. I don't know. This doesn't really go along with everything else I do, and this is like a whole nother topic. But I do have another website, and this is for people who are going, what the heck is going on out there? You know, if you don't know what's going on, it's called A Space of Love.
A Space of Love. Okay.
So ASpaceofLove.com. A spaceoflove.com.
Awesome.
And there is a lot of really alternative information, because a lot of people are like, well, Heather, you know, you're just this really airy fairy person. No. I've been into all kinds of things for a long time. I've been really awake to what's been going on for a long time. But what I do is I process the information that comes in through these tools. Right? So that's the new thing that I have is this aspaceoflove.com.
Okay.
And so that's something people could check into.
Okay. I'm gonna check that.
That's awesome.
I haven't looked at that website yet, so that's great. So Meka, do you have a last question or a last thing you would like to ask Heather?
No, I think that we nailed it, because that was epic. What a great conversation.
Thank you.
And I'm really excited about even like having the alternative information that you're sharing. And I think that people are getting used to telling the truth more. And there's actually a space for that. Yeah. So I think that.
Well, yeah.
It's the next level. I'm excited for your next level of telling the truth.
Well, yeah, exactly. And let me just say one more thing about this site. Okay, so this is another quick example of inspiration. And what happened was I was, on Facebook and trying to share stuff, and of course it doesn't go out to anybody. And then I found out that Facebook was doing, and this is months ago, right? So Facebook was censoring people, and it's gotten way worse now, And we'll see how much longer they stay in business at the rate they're going. But so what this website, they're all different videos that have been banned or censored. In fact, it got to where you couldn't even send a message through Messenger that had something like BitChute on it. They would just stop it. It didn't even matter what the content was. It was like, nope, we don't send these. And so this was my way of standing up and going, no, I'm not doing it your way. But this is a great example, because what people can do is they can just send a spaceoflove.com, and then they just send, this is the title to go look for, right? And that way people can still share however they want to share. But I have to tell you one more thing about this. It starts off with just a little bit about COVID, but I'm kind of like, honestly, if people haven't woken up to that yet, I'm just not giving it a lot of screen time. But then it gets into stuff called Who Rules the World. And honestly, just for your listeners, there's a guy on there named Charlie Freak, and he has this one, and it says something about Cabal A to Z. Now, it'll help you understand that what you're seeing in these videos, this, I believe, is stuff that has been more in the past. I believe that these people have already been arrested, or they're being arrested right now. And so I just want to say that because there is some disturbing information in there that has to do with like adrenochrome and these children that go, 800,000 children going missing a year in America alone, right? And millions of children around the world. This is something that you want to be aware of, but I believe that right now, we're in the midst of all of this changing, and that it has actually been changing for years. And what you're actually seeing right now is just letting mass consciousness catch up, right? So, and Charlie Freak talks about it. It's so logical, and he shows you all these video clips from 2017 that help you understand that Trump has been running the show for actually a very long time, and it doesn't look like that, but he is. And so it's, and for anybody that thinks that Trump is a bad guy, I would just suggest to you, you just open your mind, because you've been watching CNN, and you've been watching, you've been listening to stuff that hasn't even been what's really going on. And so this is what this does. It'll kind of give you this alternative way of looking at it. And just know that I have never been a political person. I have never voted. I did vote this year just because I thought that'd be kind of exciting to go, okay, the first time I voted,
Right.
But it's really not about that. What this is really about is the saving of these children. It's the takedown of these people who've been running the show, and it's so ugly in the beginning, and that it's just like, wow. But you can take your time, and the whole site is set up to explain things so that when you have a question, the next video you come to will explain it. So if you want to know what's been going on in Hollywood and all that, and then they talk about the Luciferian stuff and satanic stuff, it actually goes into what is the Luciferian doctrine, what are these things. And so the thing is, you can learn about stuff. It isn't like, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is negative, this is positive. That's got you stuck in that kind of duality consciousness, right, wrong, good, bad.
Right.
Well, then you're stuck there, right? But if you just go, this is what's been happening, and then what's going on in the world right now will make so much sense, and you won't have to panic about it, right? It'll make so much sense. And at the very bottom, I have to just tell you one more thing about this. At the very bottom of it, I get into things like, and you're going to love this, that dinosaurs never existed. And my daughter was like, no, Mom, don't take that away from me. I love dinosaurs. She's always into 10 little dinosaurs, So she's like, not that. Well, once you watch that, it's 30 minutes. You're going to be like, oh, my gosh. We've been sold so much to try to prove that we are like pond scum that became a human, right? It's all been about trying to get you to believe that you're nothing, you're just dust to dust, and it's like, oh my gosh. So it's a fun site. There's like no lack of interesting things to watch.
Okay, I'm so about that. No, next level of just investigating, expanding. Questioning, like totally open to that.
Yeah, cool.
And I think that's the way we've been saying is like, hey, I've learned a lot of new things recently, during this awakening process. But I'm open to it. And I think the fact that a lot of us are just staying open and not judging and not letting the brain control of, what the news wants us to believe, and just staying open, I think we've all learned a lot. And I think we can all kind of get rid of the barriers between us and not being like, oh, this is us versus them. Like, no, we're all in this together, and we can all win.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, that is exactly right, and that's what people will start to see. It isn't us and them at all. It isn't what you voted for. Nothing, exactly. And that's going to really help everybody to be able to see that, what's really been going on. I mean, there's so much more out there, but what this will do also is it'll connect you to people. Like if you like Charlie Freak, you can go, follow him. It just shows you who's good for you to follow, who are people you like to listen to, and you can take it away from there.
I totally agree. My last question then is that, do you feel that this is kind of a result of like a mass awakening or like an ascension process, like we're all shifting?
Absolutely. Well, on the 21st of this month, we're going into the literal age of Aquarius. It's the winter solstice, and it's the age. So all this time, we've had the dawning of the age of Aquarius, starting back in the 60s or 70s. Remember the song and all that?
Totally, my favorite song.
This is the big shift, right? And it's going from the Piscean age, which was really heavy-handed, into this, and very patriarchal, which we've seen, and all authoritarian, and here's the authorities on this, and that's the end of it, because we, the authorities, have told you that these are the authorities, even though people are so not getting that that's not even true. They just make stuff up as they go along, And so now we're coming into this much different energy of Aquarius, and that is all about it's about humanitarian stuff, really, and it's light and bright and airy and mental. Like minds will be thinking differently, and so it's really exciting.
Yes.
And so I think, and there's like a huge ceremony going on in Australia that, well, it's not huge. It's just really powerful, I would say. I don't think a lot of people are invited. You have to be invited, but it's in a place called Uluru.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening there is they have something that has been buried in this sacred spot, and these elders and people are all coming together on the 21st. They've been preparing for this for 9 years. And according to what I read, there are crystals that have been buried underground. And they said they don't even know how long they've been buried, but they were buried by the Pleiadians, and that they're Pleiadian crystals. And the way that the crystals get activated is through people who are heart-centered. And literally, I know. And we have these off-planet beings that are here. I mean, I've been watching stuff on YouTube, and I got to get this online for everybody, but there are literally, there's a woman, her name is Gina Maria Colvin Hill or something, and she uses her iPhone 8 and some kind of filter, and she can show you all these craft that are in the sky, UFO type thing. And she can show you stuff around the sun that's going, like thousands of them. There's everything here right now. Everything is coming together at this time. And
Galactic Federation of Light.
Yeah, like so much is going on right now. And people are like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to go have a beer now. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I'm just saying there might be something going on here, But
yeah.
So there's all kinds of stuff happening, and we've been waiting a long time, some of us, and for this shift. And so what you're watching, all this stuff, like what's on the A Space of Love site and what you're seeing happening right now, is that this energy, and the victim energy in particular, cannot move up into this high frequency. So if we're going, this is 3D where we're at right now, where we're moving up into what's called 5D, and I know that's going to be over the heads of some people that are listening. They're going to be, what is that? But just here's the thing. You cannot take a victim consciousness, mass victim consciousness, into this high light frequency. It just doesn't connect, right? And so the more that you can jump into this program and just go, I'm willing to let it go. It doesn't serve me anymore to be a victim. I would rather go do this other fun stuff. Like, I'm done with this, right? And I don't know that anybody, right? Yeah. And so, but I'm glad that we talked about this, because I'm going to put these things up on my site, because I realized I created a separate page for some friends of mine, because I had some really interesting information come in, and I didn't want to share it with everybody. So, but I think what I'll do is go put it on A Space of Love, because now that I've said it, I might as well get it out there for you guys. So.
Yes. And this is exactly what we've been talking about and researching and what's coming to us. So it's so cool to talk to you about that, and I knew that you would be in the same frequency. Yes.
Do you want to know my weirdest? Okay. So
yes, please.
So I didn't want to tell this to my A Space of Love group, because I'm like, oh, this is going to throw some of them for a loop. But as long as we're talking to your group, what the heck, I'll tell you. So I have this friend on Facebook, and she's got, quite a few followers, and we just, connected last summer. And we were just connecting over, something completely off topic. Like she was talking about all the people who had already been arrested, people who had been executed. Like and then she gets pulled off of Facebook all the time. And so I just was like, so anyway, we connected because we had daughters and I had homeschooled mine. So completely off topic. Out of the blue, we were talking last week, and she said to me, and it happened in the weirdest way, because I was talking about this woman, Gina, and how she did this thing with the sun, and you can see this teeny tiny flash of light, and then there's this explosion right next to the sun. And it was like I asked my friend who was watching, I said, what do you think that is? And you can tell it was like a ship that was like shooting off some kind of an explosive, and then it blew something up. It didn't, right? So it's like right there where the sun is, and boom, there's this big explosion. Okay. So I'm sharing this with her, and she says, oh yeah, she goes, the sun is a portal. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that.
What?
And then my other friend said, yeah, she says the sun's a portal, and the reptilians, don't you love it? Now we're going like way off topic. And of course you're going to go, gosh, Heather, you were so normal before. What happened? But here's the thing. She says, so all these reptilians who have been like underground here running the show, doing what they do, and that's, you could tell this is another talk. But she said, yeah, the sun is a portal. And then you're going to love this. This is so out there. She said that her friend, and for those of you who don't know this, JFK Jr. is still alive. He did not die 20 years ago. And I actually have a client that I'm working with right now who she's also psychic, and not that that's what I do, but she's super psychic, and she has a client who works in the White House, and she has a picture of her standing right in front of the Christmas trees in the White House, and she asked her, she says, have you seen JFK Jr.? And she said, yes, I've seen him from afar. So he's in the White House working right now. Wow. Okay, so then what my friend Ren said was that this was in her text, she said that her friend had spoken to JFK Jr. for 2 hours, and when she got off the phone, this is what she told Ren. And originally she was being asked to share it with people on Facebook, and then apparently they changed their mind and said that people weren't quite ready. And they're like, we don't think people are ready for the fact that there are clones, which is really quite true. And there's stuff about cloning on A Space of Love too. But he said, so we don't think they're going to be ready for this. But here's what she told me. She said, okay, so to get this whole picture, the other thing you have to go look into on A Space of Love is go watch the documentary on the flat earth. And basically everything that you think is real and that you've been programmed to believe this whole time, it's 180 degrees the opposite. And if you watch that with an open mind, you'll understand what I'm going to say and why it could occur and you wouldn't even know. With the idea of the flat earth, the idea is, and this is something that you can see art on this from years ago, you can see this dome. Like in this artwork, they would make a dome over the earth. And this is something where this is going to be 2 parts, I can tell right now. But anyhow, so this dome makes a difference because they show you how. Have you ever seen the stars and how they make a circular pattern up above, like when you take those long shots where they keep it going, the time shots, but they make a circular pattern. Why do they circle around us like that, right? So imagine this as a dome with lights. Like we think it's all that we're seeing stars. We're told what to believe. Right? So you're told, this is what this is. The sun is millions of miles away. Da, 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 da. Well, they're going, no, it's not. And then they show you, and like you'll get it. And they actually take a rocket. They shoot it off the earth with a video camera. It's going up, 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 and then it like hits something and just stops. And you're like, and I'm going, I knew it. So anyhow, the reason I'm telling you this is because what she told me that JFK had said, Jr., was that our entire planet is there is a galactic federation ship that is 10 times the size of our planet, and that they're going to put a tractor beam around the planet and take us through the sun portal into Pleiades, which was where we were meant to be in the first place. So you have to be really into this stuff to get this, but we were taken over thousands of years ago, and like this whole net was put around us where we couldn't, the good guys couldn't hardly get in, and it's kind of a big, long story. But here's the thing I wanted to throw in, and why I told you about the flat earth, is because it will, and that would put us in 5D. That would take us out of 3D, right into 5D. And why does that matter? Because all these really, really dark entities, anything that's left, they've gotten most of them, and the people that are connected in with it. I mean, there's literally bloodlines that have this alien, like thousands of years ago in the Bible, it said that there were these fallen angels, and they mated with the women of men, right? So this is the bloodline that is literally part lizard people. They're the Draco. And so these people are the ones who've been running the show all this time. All the people in the monarchy, all of this stuff has been run by these people, and they've all been taken down. And most people don't know it yet. But when you watch that Charlie Freak thing, you will see how that's been playing out. Anyhow, if this is true, and if this happens, things will feel different. And it won't look different because the stars will stay the same because of this dome. So that for people who don't believe this or whatever, it's not going to shake up their world. Can you imagine how that'd be? You fall asleep, you wake up, all the stars are different. That would be like, wah! Right? But this way, it's just like, oh yeah, same old, same old. Oh, that prophecy wasn't true. Oh, just someone made that up. But it'll feel different. And you can, I can actually feel this lighter energy coming, and it's thrown off all my sleeping patterns.
Right.
I'm ready for bed at 7:00, wide awake at 4 or 5, and and I started doing a cleanse, and I just find that there's something happening. And even when I go on my balcony, I have 2 hummingbird feeders out there. I have had 3 different hummingbirds come right up to my face, 2 inches away from me. And it happens, I would walk out with a hummingbird feeder, they would come right up and drink out of the feeder while I'm holding it in my hands.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Now that's kind of 5D stuff. So it's like this really magical world is starting to open up. And so don't be surprised.
One last thing, I was like, we're already in it, right? Or is it going to be happening?
Well, we're in this process.
I want to go in the portal. I'm just being honest.
Me too. Well, that's why I'm sharing it, because I'm like, I could be super cool and not mention it except to a few personal friends, or I could just get in there and tell Meka and tell her friends. Because you know what? I don't really care what people think. I'm just like a big yes to that. Cool. Yeah, I want to do that.
Oh, awesome. Well, I look forward to the 21st of this month and to see what's happening. And I look forward to the mothership.
Right? I know. I'm like, please don't tell them not to put me to sleep. I want to see this.
Right? Totally.
It's going to be good. Well, Heather, we thank you so much for your time, and we might even have another conversation. This is so exciting. We thank you for sharing the Giving Game and your book and all of these all this fun stuff about you.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. And it's so fun to talk with both of you. And thanks for having me on your show.
Thank
Heck
you.
Yeah. Here's the 5D, yo.
So we will be posting all the information about Heather Noel on our podcast site. We're on YouTube. Ascended Heart Navigators. We're on Facebook. We were recently deplatformed, but we're putting ourselves back up on Facebook again. And we're on Simplecast. We're on podcast broadcasting as well.
What did you do to get deplatformed? I have to know.
I have no idea.
We don't even know.
They took us down.
Wow. There's no reason?
No, they said that something was false or misleading.
Because we're talking about, like, ascension and, like, healing and
our last,
being heart-centered.
Our last live was about a collective trauma and world trauma. And the one before that was embodied emotion. So, we've been talking about the ascension process and 5D, but nothing really different than anyone else is talking about. But, they deplatformed us. So,
wow.
We're trying to.
That's almost like a compliment, don't you think?
That's what I said, right? Banned in Boston, yo. The compliment, Banned by Facebook. The new compliment for telling the truth.
That's right. I'm so cool. They banned me. Yeah, man. Love it. Oh my God.
Thank you very much,
so
Heather,
cool.
for your time.
Thank you, Heather. You're amazing.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Enjoy.
You have a beautiful rest of your day. We love you both.
Thank you.
Love you. All right.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.